It's very easy to get carried away with race planning. I should know, I've done it enough times. So I realise we're nearly at the end of January, but I still wanted to give you some idea as to how I go about building up my race season. Planning a race season can be a challenging but a really rewarding process. There are so many factors to consider, from choosing the right races to figuring out the travel plans. Today I want to give you 5 tips to effectively plan your race season. And stick around until the end and I'll let you know where I'm going to be racing in 2023. It's very easy to get carried away with race planning. I should know, I've done it enough times. There are so many really cool events in great places out there that it's easy to go overboard. But with these tips, hopefully you'll avoid some of those issues. Number 1, set some goals. The first thing you need to do is to determine what do you want to get out of this racing season. Is it going to be setting a new personal best at a given race? Do you want to qualify for a World Championships or other similar type event? Or are you merely wanting to improve your overall fitness? Having a goal in mind will help you plan your races and your training accordingly. But remember, keep your goals realistic. If you're newer to sport, you perhaps don't want to jump straight into an Ironman or doing an ultra marathon. These tend to require a lot more training time, and if you've only got a few hours per week to dedicate, it's maybe not the best choice. Perhaps what you could do is what I did when I first got into sport, is to have a multi-year plan for such an event. Number 2, assess your current fitness and training availability. Now this follows on a little bit from number 1, but what you should do is see whether your current fitness and the time you've got to dedicate to your training will be sufficient to allow you to be able to achieve your goals that you set for number 1. If you plan on doing an Ironman, the training required may be 10-12 hours a week, but if you've only got 4 to 5 hours time available, are you going to be able to do your best? Have a think about it. Number 3, consider hiring a coach. Again, if you're newer to sport and you're not quite sure how to go about this, maybe working with someone else who's got many years experience in the sports world will help you plan your racing season more successfully. They can be great to act as a sounding board, to figure out what your strengths are, which events you'll be able to do best in, and which ones you're most ready for. Number 4, now to select the races. Research all the potential options, taking into consideration things such as location, travel logistics, and when the race is taking place. Make a list of the potential races and then compare those to your goals for the season and your training schedule. Decide which ones are going to be your A races. Now these are going to be the main ones in the calendar. And then you'll have B and C type races. These are the ones which are less important or perhaps even just considered part of your training. When it comes to actually picking the races, you need to take the other commitments in your life into consideration. Have you got family holidays planned? Have you got work travel? Have you got exams? Whatever it could be. The last thing you want to do is to plan a race close to one of these other commitments. That can only cause extra stress and it'll mean that you probably won't do as well as you could have done. Number 5, be quick. Some of the biggest races out there sell out in a matter of minutes. In the triathlon world, Challenge Roth is usually gone in seconds. And on the marathon side, some of the big ones like Boston or London work on a ballot system where you may or may not be lucky enough to get a spot. And if not, then it's try again next year. But what you can do when you're doing your planning is to maybe have a plan B race in mind that takes place around the same time of year as the one that you really wanted to do. This way, if you're unlucky enough not to get your first choice, you can sign up for the B race, and that way you've still got something at that time of the year in the calendar. Okay, so those are the 5 things which I think you should consider when it comes to planning your race season. And how have I used these to build my season for 2023? In March, I'm going to be doing my first event of the year, a local running race, 11.5k, mostly on trails in the forests near where I live. This is one of the races that I like to do to get a feel for how those first few months of training have gone in the year. I would consider this a C race, really nothing much more than a hard training session. Then in April, I've signed up to do the half marathon here in Zurich. For me, this is going to be a B race. Relatively important, but it will be more of a test to see how things are going. I do have a target in mind. It's a very flat course, and I want to try and beat my time from a half marathon I did back in October. I'm hoping for, and this is where I'll be training to do, between a 1:20 and a 1:25. So after those first two running events, what I'll be doing then in June is taking on Ironman 70.3 Switzerland. This is an event I've done several times. It takes place about 25 minutes away from home here. I know the course really well. I train on it regularly, and I'm going to be using this as a training event and test for my big A race of the year, Ironman Germany in Frankfurt in early July. So after Frankfurt, it's not quite clear where the season goes to from there. It'll very much depend on how I do at the race. Now, if everything goes to plan and I manage to get a slot there for the World Championships in Nice, then my intention is to race that in late September. If I don't get one of the slots on offer there, what I'm most likely going to be doing is taking on my first ultra trail marathon. I'm looking at a 50-kilometer race here in Switzerland. That also takes place in September, and I can do it with a friend who's also shown some interest. Then finally, for the last race of the year, I'm going to be heading back to Valencia in Spain in December for the marathon. I'm going to be going with a few friends this time, and the plan is to finally try and break that 3-hour mark. And that's it. With a little planning and careful preparation, you'll be on your way to a successful race season. Have you already got your plans set for 2023? Drop them in the comments below and let me know where you're going to be racing. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks a lot.